Hey all you amazing artists, Miss Kastner here. I am so excited about this week's project. We're going to be making a God's Eye. And a God's Eye is just a type of weaving. Now weaving is where you just use string, yarn, whatever it is, and you just bring it together and you interlock it. A God's Eye is also called an ojos de Dios, and it was around the Spanish colonial times in New Mexico during the 16th and the 19th century. Traditionally, God's Eyes are just made with big sticks that crisscross, are wrapped in string or yarn, and a lot of times are displayed in nature, outdoors so everybody can see it. Now, our God's Eye is going to be a little bit different than a traditional one. Since Earth Day is right around the corner, we're going to focus on using recycled materials. We are going to be using old t-shirts cut into strips to make yarn, grocery store bags, string, yarn, whatever it is that you have around the house that's recycled, and sticks that you can find in nature. All the materials you should have available. I can't wait to make this with you.
All right, let's get started. Go outside, find your sticks. You want them to be about the same size and shape. Break off all those little sticks so that they're nice and smooth. For this project, we're gonna need some grocery bags, some old t-shirts that you don't mind cutting up, some interesting ribbon, yarn, string, whatever you can find around your house that would work. Of course, we're gonna need some scissors as well. All right, time to make some t-shirt yarn out of our old t-shirt. The brighter and more colorful your t-shirt is, the better. We want this God's Eye to be exciting and interesting, and you can do that by choosing a bright colored t-shirt to make some yarn out of. Making sure you cut through both sides, go ahead and cut that t-shirt down the middle. You can cut it long ways, just like I'm doing, and cut all the way from the bottom up to the top. When you're cutting, make sure that you're not cutting your strips too thin or too thick. We want it to be just right. If you cut it too thin, it might rip, and too thick, it's just gonna look really chunky on your God's Eye when you use it as your yarn. You want it to be about 1 inch thick, no thicker than that. All right, if you want to do a different method, this one might be a little bit easier for tiny hands. You can turn your t-shirt sideways and cut it from the bottom going up to the top towards the collar. You still want to make sure that it's about 1 inch thick or a little bit less, and that you're going all the way through both sides of your t-shirt so that you can make one solid, nice and long strip. The grocery bags are almost the same as our t-shirts. We're gonna start by cutting off the very, very bottom of our grocery bag. We will not use that tiny little part. After that, go ahead and cut your strips just like you did with your t-shirt, starting from the bottom going to the very top. Except when you cut through both sides of the grocery bags at once, it comes out in a circle. You wanna cut one side of that circle and make a nice long strip. Keep going all the way from the bottom until you reach the top. Once you get to the top, just keep cutting your strips until you run out of room. If you have enough room for one very last strip, that's great. Just cut the little handle parts off and you're good to go. You will not use those handles. It's time to make our God's Eye. You want to start by choosing your 2 sticks. You want to make sure that they're about the same size. That means height and thickness. You don't want a really long stick or a really skinny stick with a really short and fat stick. Go ahead and crisscross your sticks so one is on top of the other, and choose your first piece of yarn. I suggest starting with a t-shirt or a piece of string, something a little more solid than the grocery bag. You want to wrap and wrap and wrap just like I'm doing, and then switch and wrap and wrap and wrap in the other direction. This will kind of glue your sticks together so that they stay in place. If your first string is long enough that you use to wrap, the technique is you wrap over one stick just like I did, and then you turn and you wrap over under just like I'm doing. Turn, over, under. Make sure that your string is nice and straight. Turn, over, under. The technique for this project stays the same throughout the whole process of making your God's Eye. If you just keep wrapping over, under, and alternating from stick to stick, just like I've done this whole time, A pattern will start to emerge in the center of your God's eye. It's okay if you make a mistake, just keep trying. Try to keep your yarn straight and take your time. When you come to the end of your first string, flip it over, make sure the back looks nice and neat, and we're gonna go ahead and just tie another string onto it. You can choose whichever one you want. T-shirt string, ribbon, yarn, your grocery bag string, whatever one you want next. But we want to add a different one so that we can add a brand new pattern and color to our God's eye. All that you do is simply tie the very end of your string, the first one that you use to go over and under, to your brand new one, just like I did with my tie-dye t-shirt string to my gray string. And you just keep going over and under, nothing changes. When you come to the end of that string, you can go ahead and pick a different one and tie it in a knot and then keep going, just like I'm doing. I went from my tie-dye t-shirt yarn to my gray string, and now I'm using my grocery bag. Now, grocery bags are a little bit more delicate. That means when you tie a knot, you need to make sure that you're taking your time and being very, very gentle with that knot. You don't want to tie the tightest knot that you can. The grocery bag might rip. Go slow, take your time. You got it. Just keep repeating the process of tying on new strings and going over and under until you come to the very end of your God's eye. Make sure that your knots and your ties are kind of facing towards the back. It's okay if the back is messy. We want the front to look as nice and neat as possible. When you come to that very last piece, you can go ahead and tie it on to one of the loose knots in the back, tuck it under, or if you have a piece of tape or some glue, you can tape it or glue it down. It's great that this God's eye looks a little bit rough and rugged because we used our recycled materials. Some are thick, some are thin, but it's unique, just like you.